Hey everybody, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. This is your midday update on Hurricane Sandy and now the storm that it's kind of transitioning to. Just unbelievable numbers coming out of areas of the Northeast and the hurricane hunters. I'm going to focus first on the hurricane and the Northeast, and then we'll get into some of the effects here in the Carolinas. But here's the center of circulation. It's actually moving quicker than even the hurricane center can keep up with. It certainly looks like the center of circulation is right in here now. Hurricane hunters are actually flying in there right now. In fact, let me pop that up and you will see the recon data. The recon just came through the center, which was here shortly ago, and recorded a minimum pressure of 937 millibars. That's just unbelievable. It's already set a record low pressure for any storm north of the Outer Banks or Cape Hatteras. So this is setting all kinds of records. It's also set the record for the largest diameter storm in the Atlantic, anywhere in the Atlantic. It's almost 1,000 miles wide, the Gale Center. In fact, 940 miles wide, which is bigger than any storm ever in the Atlantic. We're also seeing record storm surge, and this is really the big concern. It's continuing to gain strength. Even if the storm were to completely collapse right now, it doesn't matter about the storm surge. The storm surge has already been built up because of that large diameter. I mean, you have winds out here 1,000 miles away pushing water like this. That surge is built up. It's literally a mountain of water that is moving towards the coast. The high tide this morning, we saw record water levels up and down the Jersey Shore, down into Delaware and Maryland, and even parts of Virginia were close to record. The astronomical high tide is this evening. So the tide tonight, which is for a full moon, it's just going to be epic. I mean, we've never seen water levels like this ever in the Northeast. In fact, when you look at some of the tide gauges, this is a great one-stop page with all the Sandy information on. And I'm scrolling through some of these reporting sites, and you can see these yellow, or excuse me, these purple lines are the record water levels. And you can see this morning's high tides in just about all of these locations surpassed record water levels for several tide cycles already. And tonight's going to be the worst tide. So it's just unbelievable what we're seeing unfold here. Now, I think all the models are in general agreement. If anything, the models, which is hard for me to even fathom, but may have underdone the pressure a little bit. The NAM4, which is a high-resolution model, which I really trust once you get closer to the United States. And you have to remember, we've been launching balloons every 6 hours across the United States, so we're getting really good data for these models. And that's why the forecast has been so good here in the last couple of days. It forecasts landfall on the Jersey coast with 950 millibars. I think it's probably going to be in the 940s, maybe 45-ish, 44. But you can see what it's going to do to New York, Long Island Sound, up into Massachusetts, Maine. I mean, there's going to be huge water rises there for several tide cycles. And then the big wind event moves inland. And one thing that's probably just starting to come to people's attention is how strong these winds are going to be over the Great Lakes and inland locations of Ohio. This will probably knock power out to tens of millions of people in the Northeast. So we don't just throw these terms out, historic and lifetime storm, from just a strictly impact. We'll never see, at least we've never seen a storm, at least in our lifetimes, that has caused this much impact from a wind and water threat to such a large population. And I know a lot of people get taken back by it about, why is it such a big storm? Because it's affecting so many people. Well, yeah, that's pretty much the point. The more people, that's all we really care about in weather. We don't care about whether it doesn't impact people. While it may be interesting, we really do care about these large impact events. And this will have an impact on the Northeast, obviously, directly. But then you start looking at the rest of the country. I know people in the rest of the country are probably wondering, unless you have family or friends in the Northeast, what's the big deal? Well, if this ends up being a $100 billion or $500 billion disaster, that doesn't exactly not impact the rest of the country. And if you have, the biggest financial center in the world, New York City, being impacted, it's going to have a huge impact. And then just throw in the fact that supplies, gasoline, electricity grids that'll be knocked offline. We're all connected more than you think, so this is going to have a big impact everywhere. Now, focus in the Carolinas, in my area, it's all about the wind today and the snow. In fact, when you look at the snow's been piling up in the mountains 2 to 3 inches already above 3,000 feet. And as we see the system move inland, we're actually going to see the storm move this direction. We're going to see this big plume of moisture and tropical moisture get evected into the backside and transported down. You throw into the fact that we're going to get some flow off the Great Lakes, which is going to pick up some moisture. And so the combination of the storm, northwest flow, lake enhancement, all of that is going to help produce some huge snowfall totals. So let's look at some of the model data. This is the latest NAM4. And again, I like this model for various reasons. It's been doing really well lately, and it gets into the detail of the elevation. So you can see these areas in the Smoky Mountains. I've seen some pictures from Mount LeConte. Looks like 4 or 5 inches on the ground. That's maybe 20 to 30 inches above 3,000 feet in the Smokies. And then probably around Mount Mitchell, Grandfather Mountain, Beach and Sugar Mountain, we're probably looking at 1 foot to 2 feet. And then up here, Graceland Highlands, Mount Rogers area, likely looking at probably 1 foot, 2 feet plus. And then in the populated areas, down in the valleys, I think we'll see about 4 inches of snow in the Boone area, maybe as much as 5. Banner Elk probably closer to 10 inches. And then up towards Jefferson, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 inches on the east side of town, but maybe 4 to 5 on the west side. And then the winds are going to be a big story. We're already starting to see the winds pick up this afternoon. Let me throw the wind gust on there. Even in Hickory, Boone, Jefferson, Asheville, we're seeing winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour. So the combination of the winds and the heavy snow in the whole western part of our area will likely bring some power lines down and trees. And obviously, with the mess going on in the Northeast, you can imagine power crews and people that repair lines, supplies, all that is going to be at a premium. This is probably my biggest concern for my area, is that with the strong winds up here, all the resources will be spent up here repairing lines. So if we have lines down here in the Carolinas, I know Duke Power and all the cooperatives, they do have extra crews, but trust me, they're going to be stretched thin. So while they'll have yeoman's work, it's going to take a while for power to come back on. Once it's down, I foresee in many locations. So plan on being without power for days. If your power does go out, go ahead, prepare now. There's still a little bit of time. Roads are somewhat okay now, but after sunset tonight, the roads and conditions in the mountains are going to deteriorate. So get ready now. We'll keep an eye on the system throughout the afternoon. And everybody in the Northeast who watches this or who has friends or family in that part of the country, the only thing you can do now is hunker down and just hope for the best. This is run from the water, hide from the wind. That's what we do in these situations. You hide from the wind just like you would with a tornado. You go to the interior room, get away from the windows. If you're near the coast or in a low-lying area, get out. I know it seems dangerous to go outside, but get out, get to higher ground. That's the best you can do, and just hunker down. We're now at the point where preparations in the Northeast are probably past their time. You have to be ready now. Go ahead and do that. We say it often. I'll say it again. Run from the water, hide from the wind. I'll have another update this afternoon. Of course, we'll be on air at 4, 5, and 6 on News Channel 36 and NBC Charlotte. And make sure you check us out online at WCNC.com. Grab our Weathercaster app for iPad. It's a great resource for this event if you have an iPad. Charlotte Weather is a great app you can use outside the Charlotte area. And of course, I'll have updates continuously on Twitter and Facebook. WX Brad on Twitter. And just look me up, Brad Panovich, on Facebook.